opening gag about blaming the buyer who'd bought them and stressing it wasn't me, so thank you very much, Ed. I'll do a quick straw poll. How many people have heard the following words used in connection with each other: B&Q, wind turbines, and episode? Not that many. Great, I'm gratified. So it was 5 years ago. The scar tissue has now ebbed somewhat, and we're feeling able to talk about this. Essentially, B&Q, for those that you don't know, about 6 or 7 years ago, in fact, launched One Planet Home, which Bioregional inspired us to do, and Sue also helped us commit to a goal of reducing our carbon emissions by 90% by 2023. I don't know how we're going to do that. I think I've worked out how we can do it technologically. Economically is a little more challenging, but nonetheless, we had this audacious carbon goal. And at the same time, we thought, well, there's a parallel here. We've got to put our own house in order, but actually we deal with millions of householders out in the UK market. And can we help them? And can we do something to help them reduce their emissions? Because we all know that the emissions downstream in our supply chain are way bigger than our own operational emissions. And so a supplier came to us and said, I've got a wind turbine, a micro wind turbine, and you can fasten it to your house. And when you do that, it will open up a new era for you of green, clean, inspiring, carbon-free power that will allow you to go off-grid. And we thought, this is a fantastic vision. This is absolutely great. And so we threw ourselves into it. We launched a range of wind turbines to great public acclaim. We were on News at 10. We were in the papers. People were saying, well, this is a fantastic vision of a cleaner, greener future. And we lapped it up. We had a great time. We sold about 1,000 of them. And then after a few weeks, the complaints started trickling in. And 1 or 2 came in, and we thought, faulty installation, dodgy component, probably nothing wrong. Let's go back, put it right. But then they grew and they grew and they grew. And essentially, the main problem with these things that people were coming back and going, you're right, it is a fantastic statement of ecological intent, but it doesn't produce any power. And that is a problem in a wind turbine. So we then went back and we consulted all the test reports, and the test reports said, no, it works. It works really, really well. You know, if you apply a given amount of wind to the front end of the turbine, you will get a given amount of electricity. And we said, well, where? And there was a pause, and the impression we got was, well, on a pole on top of a cliff in Scotland, possibly, in a wind tunnel. But when deployed on the rooftops of an urban skyline, then not really, because the fact is that in the real world, wind eddies around. It doesn't come at convenient times of day. And so these things weren't actually getting enough wind blowing onto them. The other slight problem was that if you were one of the lucky individuals who did actually have a lot of wind blowing your way, then they shook, and that actually started to shake the mortar out of your chimney. So we had 2 real problems with these things, and we had to face into it. We were back in the news media later on, having to say that, broadly speaking, we had given customers their money back, taken these things out, and made it right for them, which was the first thing we had to do. We had to very, very quickly say to people, OK, we've clearly got it wrong on this occasion. We'll put you back where you were before you started. And it was a very, very painful lesson. It was quite painful for me, having to go and see the commercial director at the time and tell him he was going to have to write a cheque for about £1.5 million. And everybody said to us at the time, bet that's the last time you try and do anything like that. And actually, on wind turbines, they're right. We haven't relaunched any ranges of wind turbines of late. But we have decided to forge ahead and start a new renewable energy business and energy efficiency business. We've launched B&Q Energy Saving. We're rolling out, or we're working on probably a bigger range of energy efficiency and generation products than we've ever had before under the new IQE brand. So we're committed. We're still committed to a low-carbon future for us. We're still committed to a low-carbon future for our customers. The one thing we are doing differently this time is we're not testing things solely in laboratories. So we have hooked up with the University of Loughborough, and part of their brief is, look, once we've developed something, once we bring it to you, and there's some quite exciting technologies we're working on to do with electricity storage, it needs to be tested in real people's houses so that we know that it works in real situations. So when people say to me, would you go near wind turbines again? I do wince slightly. I do get a little bit nervous. But the answer is, look, if the right piece of technology comes along, we will do it. Of course, we'll test it more thoroughly than we did last time. We'll test it in real situations. But we aren't going to stop pushing the barriers. There is a big stream of ideological B&Q which says we should be committed to a low-carbon future. We do believe we can be a tremendous force for good in that area, and we want to bring people the products that can do that and save them a heap of money on their energy bills. So When the first one goes up, if it goes up, I will stand by nervously and watch, but I'm very confident that we'll get it right next time, and it hasn't diminished our appetite for pushing the boundary when it comes to new technologies.
Okay, well, let's start off with Charmaine this time. So the right ambition, the right vision, the right business case, but a symbolically useless piece of kit. What can we learn from B&Q and Matt's attitude to failure?
I think the honesty is pretty amazing, being able to kind of turn up to your customers and say, yeah, we ballsed up. So that's pretty impressive. And the fact that you're honest about that, but then you're also honest about but our commitment is for this wider thing in the future. So we're not going to stop doing that just because it made us look a bit silly at one point in time. So that's really nice and refreshing. I think you might single-handedly be responsible for people thinking wind turbines don't work, so thanks for that. But yeah, and that the honesty and the fixing it straight away when you know it's coming up, I think that's really key, and I think we could all learn a lot from that, especially in technology to do with sustainability.
I think the lipstick tower elephant and castle with the wind turbines, which never turn, is probably taking up the baton of B&Q's pioneering.
I'm quite excited to see what's going to come next.
Yeah, visible proof of the failure of micro wind. Robert?
I wonder if it was a clever competitive strategy, because a lot of other large retailers then also started down the wind turbine route, only to find they didn't work either. So you probably bankrupted like loads of competitors in the process. I agree with Charmaine. I think honesty is really important, and quick remedy on the back of honesty, I think, is a great attitude to failure. I think never lose the ideology. You made the point that B&Q as a company is driven by a very clear ideology, and I think that makes a huge difference from people that are driven by sort of pragmatism or opportunism, which isn't the right way of going about it. Going about it from a strong and coherent, robust point of view, I think is, and I think ultimately right thinking, wrong delivery. You can't be criticised for that.
And do you think actually because they have the ideology, there's perhaps a kind of greater dispensation from customers to forgive them and actually come back and stay with the store?
I don't think it's the ideology alone. I think that it's the honesty mixed with the ideology and also the transparency. There's a huge transparency in saying, look, we screwed up, it didn't work, this is why. And there's also customer centricity, as you said. Now you know never to put stuff into the market unless you test it in the lab, test it with customers, know it works. So I think it's probably that combination of honesty, transparency and ideology.
Great. Dax?
You know, I suppose the energy system in this country is in an absolute mess at the moment, and unfortunately I don't think it's going to get fixed by the big six or many of the current politicians. And we're seeing this week, you know, a big rollback on commitments to alternative energy and energy efficiency. So I think this is absolutely heroic by Matt, because the big six probably do have to become the big 60 with good energy, with hopefully B&Q becoming one of those big 60. So now, having had those lessons and now offering more mature sort of micro renewables and energy efficiency schemes, as you said, Matt, I think this is a heroic failure and hopefully a success in future. I mean, Ian Cheshire was on this stage where he said, we want to pinch a few customers from British Gas. And so I think actually this is the way forward. And when I'm presenting out there on how to fix a broken energy system, it's you guys, it's others who will make up the big 60. That's going to fix the system.
Great. Okay. So let me ask the judges to formulate their scores for Matt, Sexton and B&Q, and we will do the big reveal. A 1, 2, 3,
9,
8, 9, and Charmaine's gone for...
No, I'm going for 8, but I can't find it, so I don't know where it's gone.
It's
missing. There it is.
There we go. 2 8s and a 9. Fantastic. It's all very close run things here. So our final contestant is Richard Turner from SolarAid. Richard, I'm going to introduce you with a quote from Salvador Dali, who said, "Have no fear of perfection, you'll never reach it."